Hello everyone, it is Joe here from OmniPoke, the channel that brings you guys everything Pokemon. And today, it's time for one of the most anticipated decks from Fates Collide, one of the clearly best cards demonstrated here in the Carbink break. And today we're looking at him with the other new EX Pokemon Zygarde, and I think it's a pretty powerful combo. It does remind me of Virizion Genesect, and that deck had plenty of good qualities, and it stuck around for a couple of years basically, and I feel like Carbink and Zygarde might well do the same. So yeah, plenty of good things here, and I think this is a decent enough list to kickstart your testing. So let's start us off. We have two Carbink. Carbink has Safeguard. This is absolutely phenomenal. It's 90 HP fighting type, which is kind of okay. So non-EXs can't hit this card, which is pretty awesome. They need to hex around this card or something of the sort. So that's really, really good. It means that we're likely to keep our break around a little bit quicker because EXs normally try and rush the face and try and deal with these low HP stuff. But here we can survive a bit better, especially with a Focus Sash on this Carbink. It means that players can't even Hex Maniac just to kill us. They have to Hex Maniac to take us down to 10 HP and then Hex Maniac again, or they have to Xerosic then Hex. So we really do force a lot of resources and awkward spots out of the opponent if they're playing an EX deck. So Safeguard is absolutely fantastic, and it's really, really good. It buys us a lot of time with our Carbink break to get many attacks off, and that's really how we win games. So following on from that, we are playing one of the other version of Carbink. This Carbink has the ability which means all of your basic Pokemon can't get their basic energy taken off them by items, attacks, or supporters either. So all of our basic energy are safe in the entire deck because we're not playing any evolutions other than Carbink break. So all of our energy is safe basically, which is really awesome, so that stuff like Seismitoad EX can't just use loads of Crushing Hammers and enhanced, well, not enhanced hammers, but Crushing Hammer and Flare Grunt to deny us of energy. So against Toad we should be sitting pretty because we can't be disrupted very well. All of these Carbinks share a 1 retreat cost, which is actually kind of helpful as well because the attack cost is 1, the retreat cost is 1. It all works out pretty nicely for us. So 3 of the Carbink as a 2-1 split I think is pretty much the most standard way you can play this deck. You're not too sad about just Focus Sashing this guy and going into the break anyway, so it's still a decent starter for you. Next up, we're playing 3 Carbink break. Slightly on the high side, but I feel like prizing 1 and if you're only playing 2, sometimes you need multiple Carbinks, definitely in slower matchups or like non-EX matchups where you want to get out something different to Zygarde. We're going to need multiple Carbinks because these aren't even the worst attackers in matchups like Night March. So for a single fighting, we do a Diamond Gift, I believe it's called. It's 20 damage, and we get to attach 2 of any energy, basic or special, from the discard pile to one of our benched fighting Pokemon. So absolutely phenomenal acceleration. This is like the hybrids between Mega Manectric and like Garchomp, I guess, because Garchomp allowed to do specials but only 1. Mega Manectric only allowed to do basic but was 2, so Carbink's pretty much the in-between. And for a single energy, this is like an insane attack. Just really, really good acceleration for fighting types. We've been complaining about fighting types having no acceleration for so long now, and finally we get it. And this Carbink can even accelerate special energy, namely strong energy. So absolutely phenomenal that we can recycle these, and it really does just make our damage output so crazy on all of our guys. Sorry about the glare, these are proxies of course because the set's still yet to be revealed, so if you're watching this in the future, remember that this was pre-set, and yeah, the deck may have changed in a few months' time. Next up, we are playing 3 Zygarde EX. Zygarde is the new sort of main attacker of the deck. Very, very powerful card. 190 HP is phenomenal. It's in this annoying like middle sort of ground where it's just a bit higher than 180, which is what most decks try and hit if they're dealing with EXs, but slightly lower than clearly Mega Evolutions. So just this 190 is really awesome. It can mean like Night Marchers need that extra Night Marcher or something like that. So just that extra 10 HP from the norm is really, really fantastic. And Zygarde has 3 very powerful attacks. The first one for a single fighting is Land's Pulse. It does 20 base And if there's a stadium in play, you do 20 more. So 40 for 1 is fine. Seems pretty weak, but then that energy could be a strong energy, so that's 60 for 1. The stadium could be Fighting Stadium, and if it's an EX, that means we're doing 80 for 1. So yeah, that's really, really powerful. 80 for 1's good. We're not playing Fury Belt or Muscle Band, but you could choose to if you wanted to. I'm going to be doing a Turbo Zygarde deck in just a few days' time, so that's the deck that will be playing Muscle Bands and or Fury Belts, so Lance Pulse can get even higher, but even then, 80 for 1 is such good pressure for a single energy. Then his second attack is called Cell Storm. It's for a fighting colorless. We get to do 60 and heal 30 from this Pokemon. So again, with this 190 HP and that slight bit of heal, we can again stay out of range of 2 shots oftentimes. If stuff like Yveltal EX are trying to Y-Cyclone around us, they do the initial 90, then Cell Storm heals us, and it's awkward for them, even with like Fury Belt to hit us. So Zygarde absolutely fantastic with that bit of extra heal. This 60 again, these could both be strong energy. Remember, Carbink makes that very, very likely that it will be many strong energy attached to Zygarde. So still, Cell Storm can be 100 base with 2 strong, or 120 base with the Fighting Stadium in addition to those strong energy. So that can be doing a solid 2-hit KO for just 2 energy, which is already really powerful. I should also mention Regirock. We're playing 1 Regirock in this deck. I'll show it off in a minute, but Regirock's also a damage increaser that I'm not even considering, but you know, it's something that we do play in here. So finally, the third attack is Land's Wrath, and it's for 2 fighting and colorless for 100. And again, think about Carbink. These could all be strong energy, so that's 160, 180 with Fighting Stadium. It's a lot of commitment to just one Zygarde to have all the strong energy on really early, but you can even just go Carbink to Zygarde early, get a big Land's Wrath off, and then later on you can Carbink onto a new Zygarde, recover those strong energy. It's a real viable approach that we can go for, so it's only really that weak to Lysander, but we can even then just Focus Sash our bench Zygarde, so it's difficult to, again, like Lysander plus Xerosic, so Zygarde will normally get really good value in this deck, so all of his attacks are really strong. He does have an even bigger finishing move thanks to Power Memory, I believe the tool is called, and that allows us to use an attack for the same cost as Land's Wrath, that's called All Cells Burn. I'll just show off one of them quickly. Yeah, it is called Power Memory. It's a tool just like G-Booster, and it's called All Cells Burn. We discard 3 energy attached to Zygarde EX, and we get to do 200 base. 200 base is killing most EXs out of range of Megas, but again, Fighting Stadium strong energy pushes this into easily one-hitting stuff. Even stuff like Werelord can go down if we have Fighting Stadium and 3 strong energy, which again we can do quite comfortably, and then recycle them with Carbink, so we're quite happy to do that. To be honest, it's just really good. All these attacks are really good when you consider the amount of strong energy and whatever else on this guy, so very, very awesome card. I think it's close to outclassing Lucario. I think they're very comparable. I think just the plus 10 HP, the 190 is just such a big factor that people are probably sleeping on. When you start playing this deck, the 190 HP is really, really relevant, so I think it's definitely worth picking up some Zygardes. Next up, the one of Regirock EX that I was talking about. A bit of a math fixer. All of our attacks do an even number of damage, so for odd-numbered Pokemon like, you know, against opposing Zygardes, Regirock can be useful. I don't think we need more than one Regirock simply for bench space. The more I played this, I started with a higher Regirock count and kept dropping lower. I think for the Turbo Zygarde, you want to play plenty of these guys, but for the Carbink build, you already fill up bench with the Carbinks themselves. Also one Regirock, and just naturally having like one Zygarde to power up one that's in the active position, the Carbinks, the Regirock, the Shaman. There's just a lot going on in this deck, so I feel like we only really need one. He is a nice math fixer though, and can push us into dealing with these odd-numbered Pokemon. Odd-numbered HP Pokemon. Next up, we're playing 2 of my recent favourite cards. Regirock, the Barrier Trait Regirock. This is our non-EX attacker of choice. People often disregard this card. They think his attacks are garbage, but he's actually a really handy Pokemon to have in this deck as a card that can really put in a good shift. Landmaker is the first attack, which you'll rarely ever use, but it allows you to put 2 stadiums from your discard to the hand. You know, honestly, you're never going to use this, but Regirock, 110 HP, and his second attack is Stone Edge for 3 fighting, 1 colorless energy, so a total of 4 energy. 80 base damage, flip a coin, if heads, 40 more damage. So oftentimes we're 2-hitting most things, and with lots of strong energy that we can supply with Carbink, we can, even threaten stuff like Shaman EX and stuff. If we flip heads, we can sometimes even threaten EX Pokemon. So Regirock, with the support of Carbink, is actually a viable attacker. The reason why we play 2 Regirock is so that we can beat Night March most of the time, or other non-EX decks like Vespiquen, or just a really heavy non-EX build of Yveltal with like lots of Zoroarks. We need to have lots of non-EX options, so 2 Regirock, because you can put a Focus Sash on this guy. Oftentimes he's going to be taking a 2-for-1 exchange on other non-EX decks, so he really helps us out. Carbink can have Focus Sash, Regirock can have Focus Sash, we can cycle our Sash because we're playing Puzzle of Time in this build, so Regirock can also be recovered via Puzzle. We can get multiple uses out of this guy, so I really think 2 Regirock is a pretty handy tech card in here to deal with non-EX matchups, because Zygarde being so powerful and having nice HP, he can deal with most EX decks quite happily, but he's not too hot against the non-EXs, just because even when you Focus Sash, he's like a 2-for-2 trade. This is how we get favourable with Regirock, especially because the Carbink is sacrificing prizes earlier on, just trying to set us up, and most of the time we're not getting knockouts with stuff like Diamond Gifts. So yeah, we need these Regirocks to stabilise against the non-EXs. I think it's a pretty important card. Sorry about so much glare, I can't really do much about it, but when I actually talk about them here, there's no glare here, so you can actually see what it does. Finally, for Pokemon, we're playing 2 Shaman EX, just helping us set up, get cards, very simple. Not too much to say about Shaman, it's a consistency booster. We don't need to play too many of these because we already have Battle Compressor and Karina Engine splurged into one, so we already have a lot of consistency, but Shaman can just push it over the edge to be super consistent, which we like. Onto the items now. We're playing a 1-of Escape Rope. Escape Rope is a card that we need to play around not Manectric, what's it called? Jolteon EX, because most of our good attackers are basics, so we need to have this to play around Jolteon. Also, it's just a switching card. The Zygardes have 1 retreat, but Regirock has 3. Regirock EX has 3, Zygarde has 3. There's a lot of heavy things in this deck, so we need a switching card. Escape Rope can do it. I'm happy with just the 1 count, because again, we do have Puzzle to recycle if need be. We are playing 1 Professor's Letter. Professor's Letter is a very good card in this deck as well. Because we're playing 4 Karina, it's just a searchable way to get energy out and get the Carbink going. So yeah, pretty good stuff. We are playing 2 Battle Compressor. I feel like, unlike something like Night March, which is we want to hit 4 so that we can access this really early and get stuff in the discard pile, you want to put strong energy in the discard pile a lot of the time. Again, because we have Karina, we can do this quite comfortably. We can search out the compressor when we need it, and yeah, most of the time we are throwing away energy or other supporters to work off of VS Seeker, so that we're not stuck in a Karina loop, which can sometimes happen with fighting decks of the past. So these 2 Battle Compressor, very, very handy. We are playing 2 Ultra Ball. The entire deck is fighting type, apart from the 2 Shaman EX, so Karina is going to be our main source of search for Pokemon, but an additional Ultra Ball here and there can be really handy if we need to flood the board of just more benched Pokemon, or if we want to hit a bench Pokemon and a break evolution. And of course, finding Shaman is important as well, so we want to have these 2 cards in here for extra consistency and just extra search on top of Karina. We are playing 4 Trainer's Mail. Trainer's Mail is just a huge consistency card all around. Really, really strong stuff, getting us into the most important cards that we need, mainly Karina. Once we hit Karina, we're pretty happy with this deck. Let me move this stuff over here. We will then have 4 VS Seeker. VS Seeker respams our supporters. We play a couple of 1-ofs, a couple of other cards that we need to cycle. Stuff like Lysander is important, and Hex Maniacs, so we need to have VS Seeker, very standard to be honest. We are then playing 4 Puzzle of Time. I think because we are playing a Karina build, Puzzle of Time is a very good option in this deck, because you can, if you're holding 1 piece, Karina can get you into another piece, and then you've basically accessed your entire deck, especially because we're playing 2 Battle Compressor. This can be live from very early on in the game. So this is really good for recycling certain things. It means that we don't need a ridiculous count of stuff like Power Memory or Focus Sash. We can recycle the bits that we need. We can recycle bits of Carbink if the one-of Carbink died. We can recycle loads of things like the Regirock in non-EX matchups. So Puzzle of Time, very, very handy card. I think with the Karina search, it really does complement the deck, to be honest. So we are just playing the one Power Memory. Virgin only needed one G-Booster, so I don't see why we can't get away with just one, especially with Puzzle to recycle it in matchups where we really do need it. But a lot of the time, we don't. Power Memory is just a one-of, and I'm pretty happy with it. It's frustrating when it's prized, and maybe you'd feel more comfortable playing a one-of if you had a town map in the deck. I can completely see that, but the card is so situational that I don't think you need more than a one-of, especially because Karina can search it out for you. I think one-of is completely fine with the Puzzle combo. Then we're just playing 2 Focus Sash to round out the tools. Sash is amazing on this Carbink when we're up against any EX matchup. This already gets us into such a favourable state because, like I was saying, they have to Hex and Xerosic all at once, or they have to Hex plus find their one-of Megaphone. Most people don't play Megaphone, and if they do, it's a one-of, so very situational if they're going to deal with Carbink in a turn. Normally it's a guaranteed 2-turn survival card, and that's 2 turns of using the Break Evolution, which gets 4 energy into play. That's just absolutely insane value, so Focus Sash makes that happen. Again, it's an important card for these non-EX matchups, like I was saying. Get them onto your Regirock. People can't Xerosic these off or Megaphone them off, so he's pretty much guaranteed to get those 2 shots unless we're up against... I mean, he's guaranteed to survive for 2 hits unless we're up against something like Greninja or something of the sort. So 2 Focus Sash, very, very important card for helping us stabilize against these non-EX decks. And another reason why I love the deck. I think this is just such a broken card sometimes. Definitely on the Regirock where people can barely ever deal with it unless they're playing an ability-focused deck. Onto the supporters. One of Xerosic. Xerosic's important for Mirror, for getting rid of other people's Focus Sashes. It's pretty handy against a whole bunch of different things for different situations. Xerosic's a very, very good card. Very versatile as well. We are playing one Lysander. Lysander also a good card for just a bunch of different situations. We all know why Lysander's good. Because we're playing for Puzzle as well as for VS Seeker, I feel like I'm happy to have these one-offs because we can always spam these just so many times. If you puzzle back the supporter itself and VS Seeker, you just get so many uses out of it. So there we are. One Hexmaniac. Hexmaniac again, very, very important card. We can lose to things like Greninja if they just can overwhelm us with snipes. So being able to spam Hexmaniac as many times as possible is really, really necessary. We also need it again for mirror matches to get over Carbinks. I've debated going up to 2 on this card, but if I'm going up to 2 on this, I want to go up to 2 on Lysander as well. I don't really see the space unless you cut the puzzle, and I think these pretty much act as multiple copies if we just compress them away and use them with puzzles. So I'm happy with 1 counts. I think you have to play the deck to see that the 1 is enough because we're playing compressor puzzle. I think it's fine. We are playing one of AZ. AZ is a really nice card as well. So many chunky things. Like I was saying, the 3 retreat costs on a bunch of different things. We need to have a supporter way to move these. You could argue that Cassius is okay, but because we're recycling the energy with Carbink anyway, discarding the energy, even if something's just damaged, we can recycle with Carbink. We're not too upset about that. So AZ, pretty good option in the deck. 2N. N is another card that's going to help us stabilize against stuff like Night March and against non-EX decks. Very, very handy, especially because we are going to be a slower approach with the Carbink most of the time. We're not really going to go aggressive unless it's a difficult matchup. For example, Zygarde can do 1 energy for 60 to deal with a Froakie to really put the pressure on a Greninja player early on in the game, where you have a lot of time to attach energy uncontested in the early turns, whereas Carbink is necessary for different matchups. Like I was saying, N is normally going to be used in favor because we're not normally so hyper aggressive unless it's a really specific situation like against Greninja. So N is normally pretty handy. We're getting a healthy amount of cards for a lot of turns, and he's obviously a great comeback card when necessary. We're then playing 3 Sycamore. I think because we are mainly using Karina, the next supporter that I'll show off. We don't need too many of these. It's just an extra consistency card overall, though. We all know why Sycamore's really good. You can also get rid of energy, throw it in the discard pile for Carbink, which is a nice, helpful combo. We are playing the 4 Karina. Fighting decks for a long time now have used Karina as the supporter card of choice to really keep you consistent, get you into all your fighting Pokemon, and no difference here really. Really good card, gets us into Compressor, Letter, obviously the Carbink line, all your attackers basically. Karina gets everything. You're always happy to see Karina in opening hands, and it's just absolutely insane. It gets you into VS Seeker Chain as well, so you can guarantee a supporter for the next turn. Karina's just so strong on so many levels. Then we are playing 2 Fighting Stadium. Fighting Stadium is a really nice thing for increasing your damage output. It basically has a plus 40 for his original attack as well, Zygarde, so it's pretty much a no-brainer to play Fighting Stadium in this regard. It's really useful for so many different things. We have Puzzle, so we can recycle it as well if need be, if it's that important, but overall I'm happy with the 2 count. Strong Energy gets us there most of the time anyway, but Fighting Stadium can be helpful for dealing with like Megas and stuff like that, so yeah, pretty handy card. Finally for the energy, 4 strong, you cycle these more than any other card in the deck. You only have the other energy so that you can like get it for Carbink early on basically, and because our attacks are expensive we can't just rely on like just 4 strong and keep having to Carbink them back, but these just get insane value. You dig them out, like you compress them early, Carbink gets them straight onto your dudes, your damage output is just incredible, so 4 strong, it's really what makes the deck tick and what makes Carbink so broken, pretty much. And finally we're just playing 6 fighting. I think 6 fighting is absolutely fine when we're recycling with Carbink so much. We're rarely ever going to deck out or never have enough energy to attack. We just need to keep 1 around so that then we can recycle 2 more. Pretty much they're always going to be strong energy because these are the ones we hunt out first. So from then on, the strong energy are going to be the ones we use, and then these sorts of energy are ones we just attach for the turn on top of whatever we use with Carbink. So the total count of 10 I think is absolutely fine. It does put a bit of pressure on Carbink, but we're happy to put pressure on Carbink because it's, you know, such a powerful card. So this also gives us access to quite a few that can just be Sycamored or Ultra Balled away in the opening turns. So yeah, pretty simple. Zygarde hits really hard. Carbink gets all the energy out and can get strong energy. Because he's got a Safeguard as well, he's just really awkward for non-EX, for EX based decks. Even with that Focus Sash on board, he's awkward for non-EXs. So yeah, very good archetype. I'm pretty sure this is going to be a top tier deck in some form. So definitely test this deck out yourselves. Let me know what you think about this list, and if you like Puzzle of Time or not. I think Puzzle of Time is one of the biggest decisions I made when making the list. Whether or not to utilize this card, I think it's really nice in here, and I think it's probably the way going forward. We can really abuse Zygarde and have weird counts of things, but it all works out because Puzzle can be abused so nicely in this list. So yeah, let me know what you guys thought. That's my thoughts on Zygarde. Plenty more Carbink decks to come. There's so many potential fighting types that get way better just because we can recycle strong energy, and we have Regirock at our disposal as well. Even some fighting types that you probably weren't even considering viable at all get way better with this sort of support engine. So there it is, guys. Plenty more of Carbink to come, and let me know what you guys thought. It's been Joe from Omnipoke, and I'll see you guys next time.